Hey everyone, this is me, the Untitled Viking. This is Earth Asunder. Earth Asunder is a game in which two people are going to take a summoner, and that summoner is going to have a faction of army units that they're going to summon onto a battlefield, and they're going to be trying to make sure that they put their armies in a place where they can protect themselves, take control of some different arcane hotspots that'll give them more power, and ultimately try to kill the other summoner and defeat the army in its entirety. It is a fast-playing strategic tactical war game with a cool fantasy feel to it. And I'll be honest with you, like a few years ago, this game probably wouldn't have appealed to me as much as it does. However, I've kind of had a weird renaissance ever since I really got into Warhammer in the last couple of years. And yeah, this game just kind of scratches that itch for me. It scratches that skirmish itch that I've been kind of looking for a while. So let me show you some of the basic core mechanisms of the game and how the game is played, and then we'll come back here and I'll give you my final thoughts. Alright, so this is Earth Asunder, and I have kind of set up the game right now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some of the mechanisms of the game and show you what you're going to be doing on each of your turns. I'm not going to play it a full game because these are rather epic battles and they can last a little bit of time. The big thing here is that the way you lose the game is if your summoner dies. And the summoners, and there's a figure here and a figure there, start on opposite sides of the board. Each figure that you have is going to have a card that represents all of their abilities and powers and whatever. And so, like, here's Cardinal Garrett Tarn, and like, so then you'll see. So a summoner is slightly different than a normal card. I'll show you another card here in just a second. This number here, this 18, since he's the summoner, at most he can have 18 points worth of power on the board with him. You can't ever go over that amount. So just keep that in mind. Then the next thing is his movement ability. He can move 2 hexes when you move him. The next is his power. His attacks do 2 damage when he attacks, and then now we have his health. We'll also have a list of certain things he does. Like here we have like Arcanist. What that means is that he's able to cast spells, and I'll show you the spell list here in just a little bit. The spell list is rather extensive, and it is pretty cool. I have to admit that, like, you get to pick from all these spells. Then you have block, reach, and charge. Now charge is bolded because charge is a one-time per battle use. He can only use that one time. So looking at the back of the card, we'll actually see, so like the arcane spells he has are Holy Circle. All friendly characters within 1 hexagon of the summoner receive Holy Shield effect, cannot stack. Holy Shield, target card can absorb 1 damage of any type. Regenerate, heals 1 health of character's upkeep and removes all fire and poison spells. Shock, and then Charge is his epic ability. Once per game, Gerard may unleash a mighty rally cry. All friendly characters are granted +1 to their movement for the turn. And so you have kind of an extended thing. Now, here's just like one of his other units he has. This is the Tracker. And you notice, now here, that is the cost. That is, so in order for them to summon a tracker, it would cost 2 arcane. Each round, your summoner is going to get 6 arcane power. However, there are these little crystals, and if Arcanists are next to those crystals, they gain an extra 2 power. So if you can get next to those, you're going to have more power to play with on your turn. So here we have like a tracker. I mean, sorry about that. You can move 2. Has a 1 attack and only has 2 health. And the 2 is the total health, and so it's considered like that's an X and that's an X. And then range 3, that meaning that their attack can be distance, and has recon. Now you're going to have all these little keywords, and after it's going to take a play or two to kind of get used to all the different keywords and what they do. But there is a very good list within the rules, and so like if we went to recon, we'd see that right there. Maybe summon up to 3 hexagons away from summoner or character with channel does not require line of sight. So basically what that means is that normally when you summon somebody, it has to be next to you, and you have to have line of sight to that spot. So like obviously then if you're summoning that particular character, it can go against that particular rule. Now I wanted to find one that, like, okay, so here's another Arcanist. So here you have this ability, this Igniter. I mean, he's a 2 to summon. He's got 2 movement, 1 damage, 1 health. Arcanist once per turn may cast Ignite or Combust, but remember, he's an Arcanist. So if you can get your Arcanist next to one of those crystals, he can also get you that 2 power. So just keep that in mind when you're doing it. And so, like, and then when they list off, like this guy, he has a list of his spells there. It says once per turn may cast Ignite or Combust. So I was going to show you this. There is this rather large, in the rules, and there is this rather large list of spells. Look at this. Look at all these spells. Tons of spells. This is so awesome. So, like, if we look up Ignite, we can see it costs, has a cost of 1, has a range of 4, and has, upkeep. And target is set on fire. 1 damage is assigned on target's upkeep. So you set a person on fire, and then they're going to continue being on fire. And the P for upkeep means that it is permanent, meaning that unless, like, remember how he had the ability to remove fire from somebody with his spells, like, you have to actually do that to get rid of it. Alright, so enough about all of that. How does the game exactly play? So one person will go and they'll do their turn, the other person will go and they'll do their turn. Now, at the very beginning, it's going to be slow. I mean, usually what happens, if you're going to be moving, and I should mention that, like, in case, like, obviously, the miniatures that are going to come with the game are going to look amazing, and you can paint them and whatever, but there's these bases that you can put on your minis, like so, and so you can tell where, like, who's who and something like that when you're looking at the board. And also, I should mention, like, you can see this little notch that's right there. Facing matters in this game. There are certain characters that, like, can backstab you if they can get behind you. Also, like, you're only able to attack in, like, the 180-degree area in front of you. So, like, for example, if this character was here, he'd be able to fight and attack these 3 because that notch is right there in the front. Might be difficult for you to see, but just trust me, that's where it is. So they have those 3 there that they can attack from. But, like, in the very first rounds, usually what happens is, like, you're going to get your summoners next to your crystals, and when you do your movement, you're allowed to pivot at any time. However, there is one very, very specific aspect to movement I want to tell you. So I'm just grabbing some. Don't hold me to as far as their abilities or whatever. So let's say this character from this side of the board is there, and let's say, like, you have this swords person, and you want to, like, they're close to death, and you want to take them out. And so you have a movement of 2, which could get you to this spot right here, and then you'd be able to do your attack. But, one of your enemies happens to be right here. And so if you're going to be moving, what happens then is your movement at this point gets immediately halved. So, like, if you only have a movement of 2, you have 1 movement left, you get that halved, and then you wouldn't be able to actually keep moving. That's kind of like this person's, like, slowing you down. You can't, continue on to your point, your attack. It doesn't mean you can't stop and attack this person, of course, but, that is a way that, like, you can actually protect your players, your characters behind the other ones and give them a little buffer. There's one other aspect I wanted to tell you about these cards, and I forgot to say it. I do apologize. So, like, some of these cards, they'll have this thing that says common. So a common is just that you get to summon as many of those as you like, and you get to, like, put them onto the board. However, there are some of them, like this person right here, says unique. You only get 1 of these for the entire game. You get 1 of them, and if they ever get killed, they're out, and you don't get to resummon them. Now, it's kind of nice that I just happened to, pull up Dalrin here, because he has a range 4. So, when you're doing ranged combat, there is such a thing as cover. So there are these things that the players can place down, like these rocks or these trees. Now, the trees and stuff that are on the board, those aren't anything. That's just, pictures, if you will. But like there are these tokens here that the players get to place down and create terrain on the board, and you can use as much or as little what the players kind of decide to. I didn't put out all of these tokens that I possibly could have, but you can't shoot through another player either. You have to have line of sight. Now, line of sight, you determine range by counting hexes, but other than that, you determine a line of sight by just drawing a line from your hex to another hex. So, for example, if I were to grab like a ranged character, like I just had Dalrin in mind here, but let's just go ahead and put this witch here, like so, and we wanted to shoot that witch, right? So now, if we had like this gunner here, so we have, obviously, they have, this is your gunner, and let's go ahead and find the gunner card, and so we can actually look and see, what they do. So the gunner, if they're on there, it looks like they are a range of 3 and a power 1. So, if this gunner was on the board and they were like right here, that'd be a 1, 2, 3 range, but it wouldn't be close enough to actually hit. You'd have to be one closer. 1, 2, 3. If we were like over here, you could still count like 1, 2, 3, not close enough. But if we were right here, you'd count 1, 2, 3. Now, if you put like a stone, like right there, we're still able to draw a line from this hex to that hex. But now let's move this over to here, and you can see now there's no way for us to draw a line from this hex to that hex to actually be able to go forth with the attack. Now, a couple things about attacks. One, they always work. If you are within range and you can make your attack, you will do your attack. You will affect your power is the damage that will be reduced from your opponent. If it is a melee attack, say these two characters right here are going to fight each other. If it's a melee attack, if you survive the melee attack, you get to retaliate damage. So, for example, let me just grab a couple of cards and I'll show you how this works. Alright, for this example, we're going to take 2 recon units. So we have the Slink that's over here, then from the Sinestra, and then we have from Dalren, we have the Tracker. So, for example, if we had this meleeing the Tracker, they would do their 1 damage, but they have a 2 health. So they'd still have 1 health left. But they get to retaliate with their 1 attack back on them, killing the Slink. Now, you might say, well, why would I do that? Why would I kill him off? Well, it's a tactical game, so maybe it's one of those things where you want to weaken that particular character, take some damage off them, and, even though knowing you're sacrificing that character, you'll be able to summon them again and, move on as far as that goes. Now, so you will activate each and every one of your units. You can choose not to in some cases, but for the most part you will. You have to do your movement and then go ahead and do your action. The one difference with this is your summoner. Your summoner can perform any action at any time, including you can reactivate them if you wanted to. Essentially, what that means is the summoner can perform any action until all of their resources are spent, or you can save them until the next turn. That includes summoning, all of your spells, movement, and attack, except only 1 attack can be made unless there's some rule on a character that breaks that rule. So the other thing is that once you are done, then you basically forfeit your turn to the other player, and they will go through the same process as well. Now remember, this isn't like a victory point game. This isn't a hold this area. This isn't a scenario. This is a you need to beat down the other person's summoner and take them out. And it can get there's lots of different ways that can play out. Obviously, you can tactics are going to rule the day with this game. Knowing the powers of your army in comparison to the other one are very important. And also, like, this was just 2 of the factions that I have. There's also a bunch of different mercenary cards, and you can build a different loadout for your army at any time. But bottom line is you have to have 1 summoner, and then up to 9 other units. You can have only 1 faction, but with mercenary cards, you can definitely fold in different units into your faction that maybe your opponent isn't exactly expecting. You know, I was never a big minis war gamer at all until the last year or so. I've kind of talked about that in some of my blogs about my love for Warhammer. And there's lots of things I love about big, giant, epic, build up my army and fighting games. But sometimes I just need to relax and just spend an hour or so beating the heck out of a friend, and while they beat the heck out of me, and I can try to have some fun while doing it. And this is that game because of the slickness of the rules, how quick it is, and yeah, there's some spells to look up, and maybe there's some keywords to look up, but after you've played the game a few times, you're going to know what your characters can do, how you're going to use it, and the game's going to just click right along, which is exactly what I want out of a minis war game. But let me talk about that and a whole lot more in my final thoughts. Alright, so there you go. That is the Earth Asunder. Asundering the Earth. So I just want to actually say that in addition to just how cool all the little units are and stuff like that, one, the miniatures that you saw in front of you, those are obviously prototypes. Those are not the high definition miniatures that you can probably expect to see when the game is published. Two, the designer is taking the time to really create a nice world, and there is some wonderful fiction that is included with the rulebook, kind of giving you the idea of what exactly is going on in this crazy world, this fantasy world, as these factions are warring against each other, trying to take control. So I've already kind of mentioned during the how to play portion, what the game kind of does for me. But if you follow my channel, you know that in the last couple years, I got into Warhammer. I got into Warhammer Fantasy or Age of Sigmar, as it's known now. And I've really just kind of dove head first, and I've just really enjoyed building up my armies. And just like anybody else. Well, I shouldn't say anybody else, but just like a lot of people that get into those, you seem to spend a lot of time building and painting and coming up with your army lists and doing all these things oh, wouldn't this be cool or wouldn't that be cool? But ultimately, the amount of time you spend actually thinking about playing or preparing to play is so minute in comparison to the amount of time actually playing. And just because it's difficult to find somebody who has a couple hours to set aside, somebody who has an army ready to go, somebody who has a specific time available or has the space available in order to play. And so when something like this comes along, where it has very, very quick and simple rules that allow me to grasp oh, this is how much I can move, this is my attack, this is how much damage I do. You don't have to roll a bucket full of dice to determine what happens. Those sorts of things. It really, really appeals to me because it kind of just hits that kind of core of I want to build an army. I want to watch that army march across a battlefield. I want to either claim victory, rip it directly from the dead hands of my enemy, or die trying. And so these are the types of games that kind of create an image in your head, create a narrative, create an immersion that I really like. And there's just something really cool about how modifiable these armies are. If you have a Warhammer army, these are my 1,000 points, and these are my 8 units, or whatever it is that you're using. And that's it. That's what you have. But in this, it's oh, my opponent is going super, super ranged right now. Okay, I need to summon some ranged units. I need to get ranged units on the board to react to that. Or maybe I need to summon like some fast moving units that can close the gap against those ranged units and take them down. Maybe I need to focus on my spells this particular combat and just concentrate on that. Maybe I need to concentrate on healing. Maybe I need to concentrate on offense. All these different things, and you can adapt the way you play as you play to kind of fit what your opponent is trying to do to you. And on the same on like the same on the other side of the coin, they're doing the exact same thing. So it really comes down to like being clever, being timely, and just having a good time with somebody that's gonna be like just trying as hard as they can to put you in the ground as you are as well. So yeah, I mean, if you're looking for a really awesome two-player have-at-you type of war game experience, then yeah, I strongly suggest you check out Earth Asunder and see if this is something you think is going to hit the table for you. As always, if you have any questions about the game, please let me know. I'll try to answer those as best as I can. Also, remember, be the most awesome you possibly can. Spread that happiness, spread that love, and get back what the universe owes you in that good karma as it comes to you. I guarantee you, the more you smile, the more smiles you're going to see, and I guarantee you that's going to make you feel really, really good. So until next time, this is me, the Untitled Viking, telling you, hey, be awesome. All right? Take it easy.